Hey, I'm Ron Johnson of RJ's Farm. This here is Mojave, also known as Mojo. He's a customer's horse. He's gentled. He's a Mustang. He's been gentled. He's had a saddle on. He's had a rider on. But he's having some issues. I've had him just over a week now. And thanks for getting in the way, bud. You know, most of what I see is just foundational stuff, and I was just kind of in here, and I had somebody to run a camera, so I decided we were gonna shoot this. So you see, he's running around. He's a little nervous. Hey, that's enough. So when he gets excited, the dogs get excited. And I kind of let the dogs let him know that, hey, don't go there, and they won't either. Shallow. No. What I'm working on here is foundational stuff. Like, you know, I can walk up to him and put a halter on. He doesn't soften for it. He'll let me do it, but you know, sometimes he backs up, sometimes he leaves. He's just not really great at that. To me, a horse should walk to you and allow you to put it on. And so I have it in my hand. If I come in here without it, he kind of just stands all wonderful, and you know, he comes over and asks for pets and stuff. But with it, he's not so great. So I want to work on, you know, getting him to accept me, and at the same time, I want to speak through a flow of energy. And so when he's looking at me like that, that's good. But when he's not, I'm going to walk in a way. Now, I don't want him running. I know this is sort of a round pen, but I don't want to round pen him. I want to put energy on his hip and have him understand. See, my body energy is going. Hey, enough. Go lay down. Go lay down. Go. All right. So, when I'm talking to him, I'm talking to him in an energy. And so this energy is drawing his face and pushing on his hip. If he wants to go, I say that's fine. You can go. But you have to come back in the same eye. So he was going this way. I was in his right eye. He has to come back in his right eye. If I walk over here and I get in his left eye, so right now I'm asking for him to yield his hind end and come to me. And so I'm just going to keep that energetic flow towards the hip and away from the eye through my left shoulder. So on the hip, away from the eye. On the hip, away from the eye. If he leaves me, I'm going to say, that's fine, you can go, but you have to come back in the left eye. So if he tries to turn around, I'm just going to stop him from turning around and get him back into the left eye. So here he's doing good. And so I'm going to walk right through and see what happens. He's back up. Yes, he does. I'm not pushing him backwards. I'm trying to draw him and ask him to follow me. Right now there's a big push on his hip and a big draw on his eye, on his nose. Front end stuck. Hind end's working. Front end stuck. See, he went there. That was towards me, so I can reward that. Now I'm going to go to the other side. And so what I'm working on here really is inviting him to be in my presence, and as long as he stays nice and level-headed, somewhat vertical in the face, I'm going to allow him in my presence. Head goes up, nose goes forward, I'm going to kind of say, hey, you need to step back a little bit, because that you're not safe when you're in that mindset. So he's thinking that way, so I'm going to draw him back. want him on me, 2 eyes. If he gets ahead of me, and I'm not saying, let's go that way, then I have to clarify. If I am, let's say I'm going to the water bucket and I want him to come with me. If he turns towards the water bucket like he was just turning over that way, that's fine at that point because that's what I'm doing. So I want to clarify my intention completely. So it's really important to know what you're asking or what you're saying. Don't walk around aimlessly. Have an understanding of what you want. I want his focus. So if I go over here and I don't have this, then I got to clarify and say, no, you got to give me better than that. See, I don't have it, so I'm going to get it back. But if I'm going over there and I want him to go with me, I'm going to go and I'm going to clarify that he needs to go. Too much energy for him. He doesn't fully understand it. Hope that makes sense. So we want to be able to subtly ask for a easy movement and not have him feel like he has to take off. We want to be able to get a subtle. I'm not asking him to go, so I'm gonna kind of take away his space, but I got to make sure he comes back in that right eye. So I don't want to push him like this because that'll make him turn around. So I want to, and if he wants to go, I say, okay, you can go. Notice my energy's back here. If I wanted him to go, I'd be doing this. Right? This is me pushing forward and guiding him forward. Shiloh, go away. Go away. Okay, so I'm pushing forward. Now I'm going to transition to asking him to come in, which is the position I was in when he left, but he wasn't hearing it. So I changed to say, okay, if you want to do that, this is what I'd be doing to get that, but that's not what I want. So would you like a break and come to me? He turned. So he's leaving. So I say, you can leave, but you have to come back in that left eye. Thank you. Right? And so, even though he'll accept the saddle and accept the rider, so now I'm just going to kind of push him over near the dog here and kind of let him know that if he behaves himself, nothing's going to happen. Dog's going to sit there and just watch. See, the dog is reacting to his foolish energy. And he feels like he needs to protect me. So, by me, okay, so I was in the right eye, so I want him to turn to me. I want him to turn to me to the right. So I'm gonna, all my energy, so we say, okay, you wanna go, go. Guess what? The dog's gonna yell at you. So you notice he slows down and gets quiet when he gets near the dog? Because he knows. Okay, so I'm giving him that go, and the minute he thinks of me instead of the dog, I don't like the idea of him moving, but he feels the need to move, so I oblige him for that. And this isn't me trying to tire him out and getting him, so he's starting to think of me, so I'm going to invite him in. And notice I just push on the hip and walk away from him. So, he was over there coming this way, and I pushed on the hip here, and as he went around, he slowly come off the fence and circled into me. I don't like the step out, catch the eye, draw him back. I'll use it if that's all that's working and he's having a hard time, but because that only works in a round pen. Pushing on the hip and turning them around will work in a nice wide open space when you don't have that fence that's circling them back. So I want to get in the subtle movements of that body energy. You know, when I come over here and I push on that hip, I would like to have him line up with me just like he's doing. I got a clear view, like his legs are lined up and his nose is right in front of his chest. Exactly the way it's supposed to. And so when I come over and I push, that's what I'm looking for, a nice lineup. You know, he's not comfortable over here. He's got a little bit of, he wants to leave. So, but he cut through, ran away in that left eye, so I'm going to make sure he comes back in that left eye. Make sure he comes back in the right. So I'm over here to stop him from going forward, but I'm ready to go this way if he decides to turn towards the fence. So I really need to get that right hip disengaging better so that I can get that right eye engaging better. So right here, I'm backing up here to stop him from going forward. I don't want to jump out and catch the eye. I'm telling him not to go forward. Now I push on the hip and tell him, so I don't want him going in the building, so I'm going to go way over here. Okay. And he does have a reasonable draw in the right. Reasonable. But he's not feeling the push on the hip very well. Or should I say, he's misunderstanding the subtleties of the push on the hip. See right here, he thinks he needs to go. Now, maybe when he was started originally, they round penned him, and stepping off to the side meant get started in the circle. And that's fine, that's not a huge problem. But I do believe a horse needs to understand all the subtleties, especially a Mustang, because they know this, you know, it was probably taken away from him because that's how they talk to each other. Any Mustang I've ever taken off that was ungentled knew this stuff right away. I didn't even have to teach it. I just go in, I talk to them, let them know I can speak their language, and things get real good. But, you know, it's common practice to round pen horses, and it's a good method, it's a good technique, especially with domestic horses. But I find with Mustangs, it's a little detrimental because you erase that natural understanding of energetic flow, the subtleties of it. You know, because if I want him to go, you know, yeah, he can get this, but this is very vague and very. But when I push here, that should have got him to turn. That should have asked him to turn. Now he's bending in, but he's not turning. So I'm going to push on that hip. And I'm really going to, there we go. Okay, so I got the bend in the body, and that turn in was a forward walk through a bent body. So it's good, but it's not great. Great would have been stopping that front end, moving that hind end out. And so we want to be able to push on that hind end. I'm drawing that face right now this way while pushing on that hind end. So he shouldn't get, good job, buddy, good job. So he shouldn't get the idea that he needs to run off, right? So I'll get his look back by drawing it. And again, I'm going to go this way to tell him not to go that way, and then I'm going to push on that hip. Okay, so the front end's coming, right? But the hind end is just walking forward through a bent body. We don't actually have disengagement in the hind, which means we don't have engagement in the arm, even though he walked towards me. So I'm going to walk over here. There. Now we have engagement. What does that front end do when I come over here? Okay, so there should have been a step out of his right leg towards me. A small one, because I was staying kind of tight, but I was gaining space. So right here, take that front end to me. It's not coming to me. But the hind end's working good. There, now the front end's doing what it's supposed to. But there was no activity in the hind. So when I want both, I kind of need to get both, but I'm not like, oh, you didn't give me both. I'm just going to make a mental note. Okay, right now he's feeling the front end pressure, or he's feeling the hind end pressure, or he's not feeling it at all. Or, you know, so like right now, I'm going to walk in a way that requires the hind end to take a step and then the front end to move right after it, okay? And so if he doesn't give me that, right, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was pretty damn close. So that's how I rate how well I'm influencing his thought and how cooperative he's going to be with me. I don't want to make it happen. If he didn't do it, so what? I just keep trying. I'll try to figure out how can I clarify for him what he's supposed to do. So again, this time I'm gonna ask that front end to move away from me. Oh. I'm gonna fix myself. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the front end to move away from me while the hind end moves away as well. But then I'm gonna pivot and ask the hind end to go harsher and then come towards me. So it should look like front end and hind end move away, front end stops, hind end continues, and then he starts walking with a bent spine. So let's see what we got. I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so he didn't go away very well. He backed up, so that is sort of away, but he didn't move over. The move over is what I really needed from him. So I'm going to set myself up again, about 45 degrees off his shoulder, and I'm going to walk right in. Do I get? He's locked right in there, and he kind of gets in the way and blocks me. So he's feeling a little apprehensive. There's in his mind, there's a little bit of trust is not there. So so let's see what I can do here. His position with his butt directly to the fence, he may think he's being asked to start a circle in the round pen. So I'm going to try and use a more subtle energy, but yet more directed to the shoulder because the shoulder was sticky. But I still want both hind and front to move together. Then I'm going to change directions and probably head that way to get more hind end and then a walk in my direction. So into the shoulder mostly, and then push on the hip. Okay. All right. So he felt it a little stronger than I meant it. Right? But we can fine tune that. As long as he's starting to understand, each request will get a little bit better. So let's see what the right side brings. Actually, let me get his hind end moved over first. Okay. And again, I want to be roughly 45 degrees off the shoulder for this. Now, typically, you don't have to worry about your position when you're asking a horse to do something. You know, if I wanted him to go that way from here, I could just push on the hip and
send him through. But he doesn't understand that fully yet. So I'm not going to make it hard on him. I'm going to make it a little easier on him. And so here, I'm going to do it the way it's supposed to be asked to find out which one he feels strongest, or, you know, what ends up happening. Is he feeling too much in the front end? Is he feeling too much in the hind end? Is he just overwhelmed and wants to escape? You know, so here we go. Right into the body. Both should move over and then come to me. That was actually really nice. That was really nice. Good job, buddy. And so here, I'm just going to kind of present the halter and ask him to follow it. If he doesn't come, I'm going to push on the hip. Draw on the face. Good job. Good job. So by turning and facing him and taking a bigger step back, that was my disconnecting. That's good enough. Thank you. You don't have to come anymore. So he wants to leave. And so I say, okay, I'm going to keep this presented to him. And I'm going to keep drawing that front and pushing on that tail. And if that doesn't work, if that doesn't work, then I'm going to fold this up. I'm going to turn and say, okay, if that's what you want to do, this is how I would ask for that. Okay, so I'm going to walk up. He's ready to leave, so I'm going to say, please don't go, but don't turn around. Please don't go, but don't turn around. Okay, so he wants to go, so I say, all right, if you want, let's go, let's do it. We'll do a little bit. And so you can see how he's kind of leaning into me. Yeah, now he's turning his head. That's nice. So when he was leaning into me, that nose was tipped slightly to the outside. And so when that's happening, in his mind, he's thinking protection, right? Preparing to bust through an obstacle or whatever. It's a normal thing for a horse when we see that happening all the time. But it's not ideal for him to travel in that way. And if we're going to ride them, we got to teach them to be more balanced, right? So if you want to take a horse to a further level, you want to teach them how to balance. And to balance, he needs to be shaped to his path, upright, and carrying himself properly. And so if he's not doing that, physically we can see there's a resistance in the body, which means there's something going on in the mind that's making him do that. So what we got to do is remove that obstacle so he thinks clearer and feels more comfortable. Right? And so I'm going to walk up and pet him. So he's unsure. Right? There's a little bit of stress. Maybe it's the wind, maybe it's the top moving. I'm not going to allow that to be an excuse for anything, because what I'm saying to him when I'm with him is, when I'm with you, I got this. I'm in control. You don't have to worry about anything. You can see his head level is almost equal to mine. He's a little bit lower, because his are probably higher than me. But what he's saying when he carries his head like that and his nose forward is, I'm not sure if I trust you as my bodyguard and protector. I might want that job for myself. And so if he did trust me, you'll notice his head will come down and his neck would be a little bit more level. There might be a little bit of a crest in it, and his nose might be a little bit, he might be a little more vertical in the face. Instead of carrying himself like this, he might look a little more like that, right? That's how you know mentally and emotionally he's feeling good and he's comfortable. And so whenever that's not present, we want to remove any obstacle that we think might be causing. Not like, oh, my rope halter is bothering him. I don't want to remove the rope halter. I want to remove the obstacle that he's worried about. So I want to use it and say, you don't have to be worried about it, right? I don't want to take it out of the picture. I want to take it out of his mind. So if the rope halt is the problem, or that ends up being the problem, then we address the problem and remove that aspect of the mind, of the emotion. So here, I want to push on that hip a little bit. Ask him to come to me. Good job. Got him. And so now I'm just going to walk by and see if he'll come with me. No. So, oh, good. Thank him for that. And I'm going to try that again. I'm going to pet him first. And I'm going to walk by. Good. Good job, buddy. Good job. Okay. So I'm going to kind of come down his side a little bit. See how comfortable he is with me working my way down. You see what's happening? Head's going up. This angle is getting steeper and right? So he's showing that he's a little uncomfortable with this. So we want, there we go. Starting to soften in my direction, that's good. Okay, so now I'm gonna get him to follow me if I can. Push on the hip and draw on the nose. Okay, so he's still saying, I don't know if you're worthy of following, right? So it's really good to know this, because if he'll say that here in his own pen that he's kind of spending most of his time in, then what's he going to say when we're out in the real world and I'm on his back? He's not willing to follow me, then he's not willing to do as I might request. I don't want to make anything happen. I want him comfortable and trustworthy, or that he trusts me. So until he's willing to follow me like this, then it's probably not safe to be on his back. I mean, he seems like a sweet enough horse, but we want to remove all the obstacles that could make things go bad. And you know, some horses it takes a little longer. We have to prove to him our value. We don't make him obedient. We prove our value. You could make him obedient, and that might work, but there are other horses that it wouldn't. And I honestly don't know if it would work, because he is one that is willing to challenge. So if you try to make him obedient, you may end up in a fight and it won't go well. So that's not to say that if he does something aggressive towards you, you know, consistently, obviously one aggressive act is not worthy of a reprimand, but you know, if he continually was aggressive, then, you know, maybe the end of the rope, spank his butt. But you got to give him the benefit of the doubt and say to him, hey, I didn't mean it that way, you know. But if he's continually doing it, then you've got to uphold your self-respect and make sure he knows that he can't be that way. Save it for last. Don't make that something that you should do. But at the same time, we're doing our best to respect him. We got to make sure he is going to be respectful of us and not take advantage of us. Because if he starts bullying us, then we're not gonna gain anything. If he's bullying us, he's willing to bully us, then he's not gonna listen when we need him to. So we gotta let him know he cannot bully us. In a way that we get acceptance and appreciation and think that's enough for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you find it useful. Pull something out of it. I'm going to let him be, because he kind of got it. Make this better as we go. Thanks again.